We are the dads of football. Thank you for coming into number 3. As we sit here, we're talking about a very specific topic on this one. And this was something that just grabbed my eye. I love on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I
what's it called
love,
now?
yeah. And I have a problem saying X, even though I know on our little frame here, it's got the little X logo on the bottom.
Yeah,
Um, but this is the at PFF account. They have some good material. I gotta say, whoever's running their socials, they do a great job. It caught my eye, and they had the mock draft and quarterback landing spots. They had Caleb
yeah,
Williams going to the Bears, which we talked about that a little bit.
we did.
Drake May going to the Broncos, and that was it. If the Broncos pull off a trade up, basically
Right.
trade their position with the Commanders, they take Drake May, Jaden Daniels going to the Patriots, JJ McCarthy going to the Commanders, and then Bo Nix going after him. And that really bothered me when I saw that
Yeah,
JJ McCarthy would be going before Bo Nix. And they're not the only ones saying that. I shared with you the article from Dan Parr on
yeah,
NFL.com, who also has McCarthy going well ahead of Bo Nix, having Bo Nix drop down to 18. I
yep.
thought that was ludicrous. Josh, am I crazy thinking that's insane?
I mean, Dan Parr's got McCarthy going 10th, right? Mel Kiper on February 5th said JJ McCarthy will be the fourth quarterback off the board behind the big three, right? With Williams, May, and Daniels. Um, it's not that he's not talented. It's not that he doesn't appear to be a team first kid. It's not that he doesn't put in the work. I think we all know that. He's a Chicagoland kid, although he played a year at IMG. He is with one of the best quarterback coaches in the Midwest. Um, I, I just can't buy it. How do you buy a guy who played in Michigan with two future NFL superstars at running back, or at least one? Because I love the kid Edwards. And Corum coming out this year is also fantastic. Um, it's hard for me to buy that. Whereas to me, he seems like a system quarterback with Jim Harbaugh, who obviously thrived this year, had a phenomenal year. But McCarthy before Nix, I mean, it just to me is shocking. I like Bo Nix's arm strength. I like Bo Nix on the field, off the field, everything the guy says, in spite of the fact that he's like 24. But
Yeah. Well, okay. So, yes, if you go with McCarthy, you got a quarterback that's 2 years younger.
yep,
Um, yes, you're talking 2 years. That's not like it's a 5 year age gap between the two of them. So
right.
just the fact that he's slightly younger isn't enough to make me want to go after the guy.
Nope,
I got to look at the numbers, and it can't just all be about the numbers. I get that.
can't.
Michigan and Oregon are two very different teams. Um, one threw a lot more than the other guy.
Yep.
Uh, Obviously, Oregon has better weapons, but it's not like Michigan had bad weapons at receiver.
No, no. The thing for me, especially with JJ McCarthy, how many years has he been a starter?
I think just these last two.
Yes. And 2 years ago, wasn't he questioned as their starter for at the
Um,
very, very beginning? Or was that
his
just a
his
show?
his first year, I mean, he had a handful of games, but it was really that transition from Cade McNamara to him. Again,
Right.
Iowa connection. I knew I had to look into Cade a little bit
Yep.
once we got him. Obviously, it seems like they went with the right path.
Yeah.
He's the better of the two quarterbacks. There's no doubt about it, and he's healthier. But yeah, so he's really had 2 years of starting under his belt. And if you're talking about Bo Nix, I mean, Bo Nix has had 5 years starting uh
Yes.
in the end. So you got 5 years of experience to two.
In major conferences with all eyes and expectations on him. And not to say that JJ McCarthy hasn't had that. Clearly he has, right? He won a
Mhm.
state title in high school football. He's got a national title now. You can't dismiss that. And really we're talking, you know, fractions of difference between their skill, maybe, especially when you talk long term. But Bo Nix seems to have the moxie you want. He has more starts under his belt in college. Um, and to be honest with you, I think he throws a better deep ball. That's just my opinion. So
I agree with you 100%. The deep ball and his arm is more powerful. I mean,
for
looking
sure.
at both guys throwing the ball, I mean, interesting enough, McCarthy's actually an inch taller, but
Yeah.
I mean, Bo Nix is like right around 220.
Yep.
I think McCarthy's right around 200 pounds. He's got more weight behind him. He's definitely more robust, a much
Yep.
bulkier, muscle bound guy. Nix is the stronger dude to me, but beyond that, it's just the growth that he's had from his freshman year to where he ended. And if you look at the progression of his numbers, I think his first year, he was like 57% completion rating.
Yep.
And now he's like 77 completion percent,
Right.
which the dude threw for 470 attempts and
It's
he's got
incredible.
a 77.4 completion percentage.
Amazing.
I think he's just become more accurate. I think he's grown. I think he's learned. I think he's the smarter guy. I think he's had to deal with more.
Yeah.
He's the guy that I would trust way more than JJ McCarthy.
I think when we talk accuracy when it comes to quarterbacks now, I I wonder if it's less having to do with how perfectly the ball is thrown into a spot and more about throwing the ball at the right time into the right spot, right? It's that combination of you've had enough reps to know I've got to get the ball out of my hand now because if it's an extra tick, the guy's going to, be able to rip through hands. I find it more and more interesting that we've got quarterbacks throwing for 77%. And clearly that's a little bit of the game itself, especially with some of the balls that are thrown to our slots, quickly, our quick hitters. But Bo Nix appears to understand how to get the ball out of his hand at the right time all the time, hence the 77%.
Well, and again, I don't want to just completely crap on JJ McCarthy because I don't
No,
think he's a bad quarterback. I'll say this: I don't think he's a first round quarterback
I think in this draft, though, he might be. I agree
in
with you
this
100%.
in this draft. I think he
Yeah.
might be. Um, if you were going to ask me right now, what does he look like to me? I'd say he looks like a third round quarterback to me.
You take into consideration all of the years, yes. Although I will say this, and I heard this was kind of an intro. I heard this on the radio the other day, and the JJ McCarthy thing was thrown out. Can he be Drew Brees? Drew Brees threw for like 60,000 yards. Let's settle down with that immediate
Mhm.
comparison. But to your point, he's not short. He's a little bit slight. He's got a strong arm, maybe not as strong as Bo Nix. Um, by all accounts, maybe, mid to late second round, early third round, maybe in all other years. But this year with, the sex appeal being right at the quarterbacks right now, I gotta go Williams, gotta go May, gotta go Daniels, because you're not sure. I mean, it's it's insanity. You even got guys like Michael Penix who couldn't stay on the field that people are excited about. Who knows if the guy will be able to, make it through a single NFL camp, let alone a season.
I was going to say the thing with McCarthy that bothers me is that there's just so much that we don't know. And again, he was so guarded
Right.
because he had two great running backs behind him. He didn't need to throw. So we didn't have to see him put it in the air unless they actually needed it. Um, but I don't know. I just look at him and to me, I'm not, I can't see him starting in the NFL right away. That's for sure.
No. No, it seems like he'd have to go somewhere where he gets a year to watch, right? Almost a la famously, right? What the Packers did with Rodgers, what they did with Jordan Love. Obviously, if they get those results, that's a whole nother thing. But um, it's just I have a hard time seeing it. And I don't know if it's just purely optics. I don't know if it's a bias because, Michigan was so damn good with an incredible offensive line and two great running backs. So yeah.
Well, and then maybe that's why it again, considering if there's a trade, if the Commanders traded back and gave the Broncos their spot for whatever haul that they could get,
Right.
trade if they think JJ McCarthy could be their quarterback of the future, they still have Sam Howell there that could be your starting
Right.
quarterback. And then once you've basically used him for everything that he's worth,
Right.
throw McCarthy in there and see what you got at that point. Or as Parr over at NFL.com said, if
Yeah.
the Raiders were the ones to take him at number 10, um, then you still have Aiden O'Connell there that could be a
Yep.
good serviceable quarterback for you. I I just don't look at JJ McCarthy and I don't see the arm talent. I don't see the decision making. I don't see the things that I see from other quarterbacks where I go, wow. He doesn't say
Right.
wow to me. I'll put it this way. He may be the most vanilla quarterback as a passer going in the first round than I've seen. If he goes in the first round, then I can remember seeing going in the first round in a long time.
For sure. And I do. I think the excitement around the quarterbacks at the top this year have made the next wave of quarterback um, that much more exciting. So I would agree with that 100%.
Now, I've said it before in a couple episodes when we talk about the 49ers that you have a guy like Brock Purdy that maybe didn't look electric when he was in college.
Yeah.
But if you look at his, I think it was, I can't remember if it was freshman or sophomore year. I think it was his sophomore year. He was electric his sophomore year. He had, I
Yes.
want to say he had like 30 touchdown passes,
Right.
single digit interceptions, um, well over 2,000, maybe in the 3,000 yard passing range.
Right.
Actually, he may have thrown for 4,000 yards that year. I can't remember. It was something ridiculous. So
Right.
that 1 year, he showed you a glimpse of something special, and that was at Iowa State.
Right.
You
Right.
know, this kid is at Michigan, where they have 5-star guys left and right, and
Right.
that's the difference that I could see. Not that I was going to predict that Brock Purdy would be what he is now,
No.
but you could at least look at his college record and say, "Ooh, there was this one blip here where this guy did something special." Everything that I've seen from McCarthy is good, not first round good.
And I think that's going to ultimately be what the combine shows. I think that's one of the things that'll be exciting to see is when you now have him, throwing alongside even that kid from Tulane. Is it Michael Pratt? But,
Michael
seeing
Pratt.
those big, yeah, seeing those big arms right next to each other, you're going to know. You're going to know can McCarthy, if that's all we're talking about, if that's the one thing maybe you want to focus on, because I don't think you can argue the dynamics of him athletically. He's a quick kid. He moves the
No.
ball. He moves out of the pocket well, but does he have that arm strength?
Well, and then again, Bo Nix is athletic
Right.
and he threw for 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, and 3
Yeah.
interceptions. So you know he can do it.
Yes, you've seen it. You've seen it. Whereas McCarthy, have we seen it? Have we seen enough? I suppose might even be the argument there too. So
Well, and I feel bad for Bo Nix because now we're talking about him being what the fourth quarterback taken.
yes,
If that happens, considering he had one of the best college football production years at quarterback.
yep,
Um, and it's not a dink and doing system. It's a guy that really
no,
had to put it out there. Um,
yes,
I don't know. I'm just saying if a team passes Bo Nix for McCarthy, to me, they're making a huge mistake. And if McCarthy ends up being a football god, then I'll have to live with this.
yeah, yeah. I'll eat my hat, but I'm going to take the guy that threw for 4,500 yards with 45 touchdowns. I'm going Knicks. So
I like it. Well, Josh, as always, thank you. And for those of you watching, like, subscribe, and we'll be hitting you up with some more football takes in the near future. Until next time.